CBN Monetary Policy Committee terminates sale of foreign exchange to Bureau de Change operators as it retains benchmark rates.
PDP governors seek concerted efforts to tackle growing insecurity in the country.
As 884 new wigs emerge nationwide, law graduates of the National Open University to be called to the bar henceforth.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the resolutions from the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has discontinued the sale of foreign exchange to the Bureau de Change operators in Nigeria. This decision was reached after its meeting this week.
Now, the governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, who made the announcement, said that funds would now be channeled to commercial banks, which are to create dedicated tellers for the purpose. Now, this implies that customers can now buy forex from banks after providing all required documentation, and such customers are free to report any bank they are faced to sell to them.
Now, the CBN governor also pointed accusing fingers at embassies and foreign organizations for the role they played as illegal forex dealers to Bureau de Change operators, insisting that these persons and institutions will be reported to their countries. Emefiele says Nigerian banks who acted as collaborators will also be dealt with by the Apex Bank.
Now, according to him, henceforth, no license will be issued to new Bureau de Change operators. And he also indicated that actions, of course, by the BDCs had brought about the gradual dollarization of the Nigerian economy. He, however, described the Nigerian economy and banks in particular as resilient and safe, and that agriculture and industry subsectors were the major drivers of growth in the non-OS category.
Well, Emefiele also said that the weak performance in the oil sector was as a result of the declining quality of oil infrastructure, lack of new investment in the sector, and the need to comply with the OPEC production quota.
The Monetary Policy Committee, he explained, urged the federal government to intensify security surveillance in farming communities. This is to ensure uninterrupted farming activities. The committee noted that the equities market remained in a good position, indicating sustained investor confidence in the Nigerian economy.
The MPC retained the monetary policy rate at 11.5%. Cash reserve ratio was retained at 27.5%, and the liquidity ratio was also retained at 30%.
Well, those were some of the key decisions taken by the policy meeting after it held this week. Now, it's our first focus in terms of conversation for today. We'll also be taking a look at the Fiscal Transparency and Accountability and Sustainability Program, which is a World Bank assisted program established by the federal government after the 2015-2016 fiscal crisis.
The program seeks to encourage states to meet some identified eligibility criteria so as to achieve disbursement-linked indicators to qualify for the disbursement of a predetermined performance grant. It was approved in June 2018 and it became effective in May 2019. That's the outlook of our program for today. Thank you for finding time to join us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. I am Kyrian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I also joined my colleague Kyrian to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We have our complimentary segments, including newspaper review, business, and others. Right now, here is Musbah Udan Wahab with the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Musbah.
So very good morning, Kingsley and Kirian. Venice. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo says transforming Africa's food system is an obvious task requiring the active mobilization and prioritization of both public and private investments. The Vice President explains that the resolve of the federal government in complementing existing development plans, sectorial strategies, and prioritizing investments in specific innovations and technologies are all necessary to transform food system in the country. Professor Osinbajo, in his remarks delivered virtually at the preparatory meeting of the United Nations Food Systems Summit 2021 scheduled for Rome in September, says that the Nigerian government is committed to addressing the drivers of food insecurity such as food inflation, changing consumption patterns, and climate change, amongst other things. The summit is designed to guide national governments and other stakeholders looking to leverage their food systems to support the SDGs, with the understanding that food systems play a central role in building a fairer and more sustainable world. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says Nigerians in diaspora have the capacity to change the narrative about the country to a positive one through good image projection of Nigeria's values. The minister stated this when members of the Nigerians in Diaspora UK chapter visited him in Abuja.
These are baseless and false. As an organized and well-connected group, I implore NIDO to leverage its contacts in government circles, parliamentary groups, and global think tanks in world capitals to help change the narrative and sweep the carpet off the feet of secessionist groups, insurgents, and anarchists.
A bit of politics. The People's Democratic Party Governors Forum has called on the federal government to increase the use of military equipment in its fight against insurgency and banditry. The forum made the call at the end of its meeting held in Bauchi.
Nigerian Communication Satellite Limited Platform SAT, telephone companies, telcos, and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that universal access and service of information and communication technologies are provided, especially in rural and unserved and underserved areas of the country before the 2023 general election.
The All Progressives Congress APC says part of its reform programs is to encourage, increase and support women participation in politics. This was when the party's caretaker committee engaged women groups at its national secretariat in Abuja.
Also pray for Nigeria, and the caretaker committee is keen on ensuring that more women occupy visible positions in the party and also in government.
Borno State's Governor, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, has inaugurated a high-powered committee to relocate internally displaced persons from Abadan local government area in northern Borno State. The voluntary relocation of the IDPs will commence in the next 3 months.
You may recall that we have in recent times officially closed down many IDP camps. This is informed by our decision to relocate all IDPs to their ancestral homes, close down all camps in the state in metropolitan head town before the end of this year.
Law graduates from National Open University now have the opportunity of attending the Nigerian Law School for a special remedial course as a prerequisite to the bar finals, leading to the award of qualifying certificates. Successful aspirants among them will be entitled to be called to the bar. This was made known at the July 2021 call to bar ceremony for successful aspirants of the 2020 bar finals examination.
And administrators will continue to uphold the standard and integrity of the bar.
Days and years to come, you must remain steadfast, dedicated, and persevere at all times. This way, you will succeed as lawyers.
Excited, and I'm grateful to God.
It will be an easy journey, but alhamdulillah, here we are today.
Now, away from that, the number of COVID-19 infection in the country has continued to rise, with Nigeria recording 404 new cases. In the latest figures released by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Lagos has the highest confirmed cases of 356, followed by Rivers with 18, FCT 7, Ekiti and Kaduna got 5 each, while Gombe and Kano recorded 3 new cases apiece. Edo and Ogun both had 2, while Bayelsa, Plateau and Nasarawa states had a new case each. This brings to 171,728 confirmed cases in Nigeria, with 164,837 of them treated and discharged, while 2,134 have died of the virus. That concludes the news this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. The program.
Minister of Industry, Trade and Investments Adeniyi Adebayo emphasized that this has become imperative as Nigeria braces up for the takeoff of the AFCFTA, saying those involved will benefit from the continental markets. At a roundtable dialogue on AFCFTA agreement in Abuja, he remarked that the knowledge gap on the possible effects of AFCFTA on the economy will be filled. He disclosed that the continental trade has the capacity to boost intra-African trade, expected to deliver an integrated continental market consisting of 1.27 billion consumers and an average GDP of $3.4 trillion. In another development, the federal government says it will continue to demonstrate its commitment in combating corruption and financial crimes through several strategic interventions and reforms, which will keep yielding desirable results. Attention now shifts to fighting retail corruption in some sectors due to its negative impact on the society. Stakeholders at a dialogue on effective and sustainable strategies for curbing retail corruption agreed the factors driving the high rate of retail corruption must be nipped in the bud.
While conducting your business as a citizen, or while trying to access service from government institutions for which you are entitled to, there are some government officials who believe somehow you have to pay them before you access services that you are entitled to. Corruption in this form should be fought because it will add value to the quality of the lives of the citizens.
The Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, PACAC, insists that accountability must remain the watchword. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thank you, Kunle, for that business package. And next on the program is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Tebe, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Kilian.
Bayo, you're welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Kilian, you want to kick off or I start? Let's start with the Punch newspaper.
All right.
Punch, above the nameplate, you have the following headlines. Experts blame COVID-19 as states' IJR shrink by 22% in 2 years. Experts blame COVID-19 as states' IJR shrink by 22% in 2 years. Naira slides to 505 to the dollar as CBN stops forex sale to BDCs. Federal government deploys 9,100 coppers, that's to say corps members, in Northwest. Gunmen kill 344, abduct 430 in July. That's on page 2. Buhari's UK trip for virtual summit, deceptive and appalling. That's attributed to the People's Democratic Party. It is on page 11. There's an earpiece there. It says, medical education. We should address brain drain. And dollars can't treat malaria. Train doctors, says ex-CMD Mohammed. And then you have the photographs there on the front page of the corps members. That's batch B, stream 1, undergoing COVID-19 tests. This was in Gombe State. Senate drops CCT chair's assault case as judge goes to court. Borno employs 3,000 teachers, laments 5,000 schools destroyed by Boko Haram. Plateau cholera outbreak spreads and cases hit 1,315. Katsina gun runner, who is aged 21, arrested with 3.5 million arms cash and accomplices remanded. Abuja policeman guns down football fan for warning against accidental discharge. That's on pages 4 and 5. Rally, Zamfara Assembly gives 48-hour extension to Deputy Governor on summons. Kyria, let's take this one first before we take all this.
All right, let's go to the Daily Trust newspaper. Bandits, informants set self ablaze in Zamfara as 22 suspects nabbed. That's page 10. ISWAP abducts Yobe government house staff, soldier, and 2 others. Feni Ferres, Hara reporter under fire over offensive report. And the lead story says, in major policy shift, CBN cancels 2.3 trillion forex sales to BDCs. With the 4 riders to that story, practice unsustainable, as according to Emefiele, CBN governor. Mixed reactions as experts fear more pressure. Operators flaunting rules, aiding financial crimes, that's CBN governor. Abscon silent on new policy and allegations. Now, below the photo story of the Daily Trust front page, Presidency administers secrecy oath on 42 staff. It's on page 4. Cholera spreads to 18 states, claims 479 lives. The story is on page 6. On page 8, we have gunmen abduct 7 naval officers in Edo. Atiku, a Nigerian eligible for presidency, according to Adamawa state government. The story is captured fully on page 4. Bayo.
Thank you, Kire. Let's start with story about 7 naval officers. 7 naval officers on official duty from their base in Kaduna and were heading towards Navy Engineering College Sapele came under attack and they were abducted. However, the Edo State Police Command came to their rescue and 5 of them have been rescued. They are now going after the abductors for the 2 other officers. The spokesman for the Edo State Police Command, Contus Bello, confirmed the rescue of the 3 officers. In another development, a traditional ruler in Kaduna Jabak Chiefdom, the Kopham, Dr. Danla Diget is reported to have been abducted from his farm by bandits. Dr. Maude was reported to have been visiting his farm at Gitata, which is around Panda in Nasarawa State. The abductors have already contacted the family and are demanding a ransom of about 100 million. It may be recalled that it is only about a fortnight ago when the Serkin Kajuru was similarly forcefully abducted from his palace. 24 hours later, he was returned by the bandits with apologies and expressed contrition that they had abducted the traditional ruler. Meanwhile, suspected gun runners for bandits and 2 others have been remanded in a correctional center in Katsina. Police who intercepted them on a routine stop and search. In fact, the 2 of them were coming on a motorcycle, and when they searched them, they find a sum of 3,445,000 on them. And they confessed after investigation that it was proceeds from sale of AK-47 rifles and live ammunition to bandits in Regina Forest along Kaduna Abuja Expressway. When they were taken to the magistrate court in Katsina, the magistrate court ordered them to be remanded in prison custody until the police concludes their investigation. 2 other persons were also arrested for the same, being informers to bandits. And in Zamfara, specifically in Dansauda, in Maru local government area, the security men went under suspected informers of bandits. One of them was arrested and taken into custody. He attempted to wrestle the rifle from the hand of the soldier, and in the process shot at a jerrycan of fuel and set himself ablaze. Eventually, when the case went on, 22 other persons were also interdicted for involvement in castle rustle sales, stolen phones and motorcycles, which they are in the habit of selling to criminal bandits. 3 undergraduates who are described as internet fraudsters have barred various suspended jail terms. One of them is said to be a student of the Kwara State University of Ilorin and was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment with suspension for 1 year. He was involved in what has been described as internet love scam and internet fraud. He is said to forfeit to government the iPhone, laptop, and the sums of money, about 325,000, that was recovered from him. A second convict was also a student of Kwara State Polytechnic Ilorin. He backed 6 months term and is to forfeit a 2014 Toyota Venza, 2 iPhones, and the sum of 404,000 to the federal government. There is a third one. He is also of the Kwara State University, Maliti, and internet fraud has been the factor that has been very devious in the Ilorin metropolis capital. Also, concerns about cult activities has been on the high in the Kwara State capital. Governor Nyesom Wike has alleged call for national unity, stressing that God made no mistake in bringing people of different diverse culture under one nation, Nigeria. He advised, however, that Nigerians must be protected against violent secessionist agitators. The governor, who was receiving the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, on a courtesy visit, observed that war against insecurity suffered a setback because army officers became partisan and instead of being professional. He therefore advised that those agitating against perceived injustices and seeking to address their grievances should not adopt violence, because violence does not pay. He also enjoined the army to be very professional so that they can hold their integrity intact. He specifically asserted that during the 2019 election, some officers of the army were actually seen to be biased, according to Governor Nyesom Wike. The other matter of concern is that Kaduna State government yesterday was reported to have suspended a resumption of schools indefinitely. But the Commissioner for Education, Dr. Shehu Makarifi, has denied that. He said what was done was to extend the holiday period for only a matter of 3 weeks. And therefore, the information that was passed, that the schools have been closed indefinitely, was wrong and deliberate misinformation to mislead persons in Kaduna State. The commissioner indicated that those who were behind that information had even said that Governor Nasir El-Rufai made the revelation while he was holding meeting with stakeholders. He says there was no meeting with no stakeholders and no such announcement was made by the governor. So how did that information get out?
Well, it's part of what we get in this part of the world. There is no secrecy in government, because we have seen a situation where meetings are held, and even before the meeting, dismisses, information has gone out as to the deliberations, in such meetings. So it's not even the first time, it's been happening, because there are persons, who are working for certain persons or organizations, who are also part of government. That has happened in the past. So this is not the first time that we are hearing such leakages of information.
But the information, according to the commissioner, was that a holiday period has been extended for 3 weeks. But the report put in the domain was that schools were to remain closed indefinitely.
That is misinformation. Totally different from what they... Well, what we have on the list story here actually is the topic that we're going to be deliberating on this morning. But this issue of ISWAP abducting Yobe State government health staff and a soldier and 2 others. I saw 3 of them paraded in one of the platforms on the social media yesterday.
Well, that came to me as a surprise, because the activities of ISWAP and even Boko Haram had gone under for a long time. This begins to point to the fact that they are gradually coming up again. ISWAP is supposed to be Islamic State in West Africa, a branch of ISIS that has been having the activities in Iran, across Iraq, up to even in Jordan, and which is the other country. So they are having links in Mali, and now they have a strong foothold in Nigeria. This is the danger now. If you notice that the activities of bandits that have now resorted to capturing students in schools are beginning to have a link with some of these ISWAs. And Niger State Governor recently also drew attention to that we need to be very, very careful, because the ISWA people are now spreading their tentacles from northeast across now to northwest.
Okay, Bayo, I'd like to appreciate you being around today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service, Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, as a prompt for our first topic in the conversation segment today, which is on resolutions from the latest meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, let's listen into our correspondent, Leah Katung Babatunde.
It is the 280th edition of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting and the third for the year 2021. The economic fundamentals show a slow but steady recovery. However, concerns around the foreign exchange market have visibly peaked among committee members. Over 5,000 registered bureau de change operators are active in the Nigerian space, with a lot more on the queue for approval. A visibly disturbed governor of the CBN says despite selling $110 million weekly to the operators, they have become accessories to illicit financial flows, posing a risk to the economy.
As for those foreign organizations involved, we will report them to their regulators. We will write to those organizations seeking their understanding, and that they must desist. If they seek to operate in Nigeria, they must go through the right channels through which they must procure either foreign exchange or procure Naira for their domestic operations.
He says unsatisfied foreign exchange customers should call 0700-2255-226 or send an email with your concerns to the Apex Bank using cpd@cbn.gov.ng. The bank will also commence the issuance and transactions of the Nigerian digital currency, or the e-Naira, from October 2021, but transactions in cryptocurrencies remain banned in the country.
The e-Naira is being introduced to complement existing types of monies and not to replace them. I would emphasize that cryptocurrencies are private monies which are not regulated by any regulatory authority. Therefore, using them is your own individual decision.
The outcomes of the meeting include a decision to work with other policymakers in bridging the gap between certificates and skills, improving food security, and enhancing productivity to push economic growth above population growth. The committee maintained its policy stance and warned beneficiaries of CBN's interventions against default in repayment.
Well, thank you, Leah, for that background report. And now joining us in the studio is Professor Michael Baden. He's a professor of economics at the University of Benin and the member CBN Monetary Policy Committee. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure.
Also with us in the studio in Abuja here is Ni Akinsiju, the financial and investment analyst. Ni, it's good to see you again.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and privilege.
All right, gentlemen, we're delighted to have you both in our studios. You're, of course, regulars on Good Morning Nigeria. When we are taking on economic and financial matters, a couple of days ago, we had the benefit of the attendance of Professor Michael Baden here. We're discussing how to manage inflation and the spike in the rate of forex in our country, and a number of resolutions taken by the Monetary Policy Committee tend to address those issues. Let's just begin by getting some clarification now that you are here with us in the studios. The two of them, of course, that are very pertinent, other than the rates that have been either retained as well as other political economic matters. What the CBN governor was saying a while ago in our clip about e-money, starting off in e-naira rather, starting off in October this year, that's 2021, and of course the prohibition of sales of forex to BDCs. But let's begin with e-naira. What is e-naira and how is it different from cryptocurrency?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley. E-naira is a kind of electronic money, a specific form of electronic money that that is aimed at complementing the existing, paper money in circulation. I think central banks are being encouraged to introduce it now. Also, as a complement of the existing cashless policy, electronic transfers, receipts of funds. And it is not a currency for speculation, or trading, as it were, by individuals, like the cryptocurrency is. And the e-naira is going to be issued by the sole monetary authority, that is Central Bank of Nigeria. Whereas the cryptocurrency is issued by private individuals as a kind of asset, which they can trade. And of course, they also try to turn it into a medium of exchange, which it is not supposed to be. If it were purely, a trading asset, perhaps there would be no issues. But when privately issued, digital currency, as it were, is now being used in competition with the officially recognized, medium of exchange in a country, I think that's where issues come up. And it's the private individuals that are issuing them actually are relatively unknown. They operate in relative secrecy because of the kind of technology which they use. I think the excitement about cryptocurrency is the fact that it's being considered as an asset by those who get involved in it and used for trading, which means the value can go up and then they make money. But when the value goes down, they lose money. There is that inherent risk. And so the e-Naira that is going to be introduced by the bank is such that it will facilitate, transfers, payments, through the electronic platform. In other words, actually, it's a kind of, it's an instrument to further, actualize the objective of cashless policy in the country. An individual will will have a kind of digital wallet. He already or she already has a bank account. Part of that bank account can, at the volition of the depositor or the customer, be converted into an e-wallet, through which transactions can be made by the individual. So central bank issues it, and it has the full weight of the law, unlike the cryptocurrency, which anonymous individuals issue, and which also encourages fraudulent practices, fraudulent activities, facilitation of illicit financial flows, proceeds from corrupt practices and all that.
Well, I think as time goes on, Councillor, we might have a full program on the e-money, because the Central Bank of Nigeria actually frowned, initially, when many Nigerians got involved with the cryptocurrency dealings, but now that they have decided to bring in e-money, perhaps it will now take over from what we used to know as a cryptocurrency in Nigeria. Now let's turn to NTA. The CBN Monetary Policy Committee meeting took far-reaching decisions on, as it concerns access to foreign exchange, and of course now saying that the BDCs should not now be part of that arrangement. But some argue also that the BDCs have a better network, distribution capacity, the convenience, potency, and of course the ability to serve the critical retail segment of the society. Now, what is your view about this very critical decision taken by the CBN?
Very, very critical. I am one of those that actually commend the CBN for taking this decision. First, you have to understand the context for the creation of CBN, of the BDCs. Principally, they were supposed to be retailers of foreign currencies, and in doing that, they are supposed to be responsible for mopping, trickles of foreign exchange that comes into the country. And that's why normally BDCs are popular around airports, foreign arrivals at airports. That would be the first point of call where you exchange the little you have. It is from that mop-up that they also create their own assets to exchange for Naira, for local currency, as it were. But you have seen a departure from that, or in fact, it's not original. That's a normal function of the BDC. You have now seen a departure where they now depend on the CBN as official conduit, for their own supplies. It's a distortion, as far as I'm concerned, because when you now see $5.7 billion being distributed to Nigerians through the BDC's network, you want to question what value we are deriving from that $5.7 billion. And especially for me, I can't see a difference between BDCs and the parallel market operators. Because wherever you see a constellation, a cluster of BDCs, you also see a cluster of parallel market operators. So there's a confusion too. And the truth is that if you patronize the BDCs, you would, the value or the rate that you take for your foreign exchange is as if it's the parallel market rate. So there's no difference. And the fact of the matter is that here you have an entity or entities that are supposed to be part of the official protocol of foreign exchange distribution and all that access, being actually more of a peripheral operator, you know, as acting in the parallel market segment. So there's for me there's a lot of confusion, you know, and then the revelation by the CBN governor is also not exactly heartwarming, especially where you have entities in the country, international bodies, actively engaging these BDCs. They are not engaging the BDCs. It's the parallel market that they are engaging. Because what it means is that they bring in their money, they first go to the BDCs to exchange at parallel market rates. And I think that is the concern of the CBN governor. Those official entities are supposed to transact business, you know, at the level of the I&E, the investors and export market segments, you know, of the foreign exchange. So, the foreign exchange market. So, when you now see embassies as claimed by the CBN governor, embassies, international financial development organization, in fact, that is also touching because these are people that are supposed to understand basic rules and best practices, global best practices. And when at the level of the CBN governor, such allegations are being made, then something is really wrong, you know. So it does mean that a huge quantum of foreign exchange transaction is being conducted outside the official market. And the CBN is responsible for regulating the market, is responsible for monitoring the market. When you have such quantum, you know, of business happening outside the market, it means that the CBN itself cannot even make projections, you know, on what they want to do in terms of policy positions and all that.
Thank you very much there for your perspective. Professor Michael Bada, help us understand what the CBN is seeking to achieve through its monetary policy committee meeting decision on the BDCs having access to forex from the central bank. Just what is at play here?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley. I think the issue is that, well, I fully associate myself with the perspectives of NII. The issue is that the BDCs have outlived their usefulness. The BDCs, you know, rather than assisting the monetary authority to achieve the objective of, you know, sound management, proper management of foreign exchange reserves, and ensuring the stability of the naira, the BDCs are now helping to accentuate instability of the exchange rate. And like Nii, you know, alluded to, the BDCs at the beginning were, you know, introduced to allow, you know, small customers, micro firms, individuals to access foreign exchange at very, in a very convenient way. Very convenient way. And at the beginning, the BDCs were not supposed to access official foreign exchange. They were introduced, say, you are part of the official foreign exchange market, then you can, you know, obtain funds from the autonomous foreign exchange market. Like Nii rightly said, somebody is coming into the country at the airport, you know, sells dollars to you, take naira. You maybe some other, you know, actors in the system also have foreign exchange to sell. They go to BDCs at rates, you know, which are not so misaligned or deviate from the official foreign exchange rate. And that was the essence. So the purpose was that there should be minimal documentation. They observed bureaucracies of the deposit money banks in selling foreign exchange. We tend to discourage, economic agents that need foreign exchange will not be there. You can walk into a bureau station within a few minutes or even seconds. You complete your transactions and you go away. And they were supposed to be dealing in, small quantities of foreign exchange, less than $5,000. But after a few years, these BDCs started agitating, to be allowed to have access to the official funds coming from the central bank. And also in the context of reforms, the central bank, acceded to their request and brought them into the official foreign exchange market and started providing foreign exchange for them. But not long after that one, what was observed was that the BDC operators started misbehaving, perpetuating fraudulent, practices and other malpractices. And very importantly, the BDCs started colluding with the black market operators, which Riley said that as of today, what they are doing is not different from the parallel market operators. The misbehaviors of BDCs started long ago, a few years after they were introduced. In fact, this point of their engagement in fraud and then collusion with the parallel market, I fully documented in my book titled Foreign Exchange Market and the Balance of Payments, published in 2013. So right from then, they've not, moved away from their misbehaviors. And as of today, like Niyi rightly said, their activities are like those of the parallel market or black market operators. Yet, the central bank sells, foreign exchange to them at the investors and exporters window and expect them to sell to the general public at a margin, small margin, which will enable them to keep afloat, make some profit, and so on. But rather, once they get the foreign exchange, they go to their colleagues in the black market, they reach a deal, the kind of monopolistic practice, and they are selling at that rate. Which means then that, the initial objectives of setting them up have been defeated. And so they are not in a position as of now to assist the monetary authority, central bank, to achieve its objective of stabilizing the exchange rate, efficient management of the foreign exchange reserves. And therefore, there is no raison d'etat for them to continue to exist. And so what the central bank seeks to achieve here is that, well, since the BDCs are no longer serving the purpose for which they were set up, then we will stop giving them foreign exchange, and the foreign exchange hitherto given to them will now be given to the deposit money banks, commercial banks. And that's why, to effectively implement that one, commercial banks are being directed. I know some of them already have foreign exchange desks in their organizations. They are being directed to now have special desks, in their key branches dedicated to transactions in small, quantities of foreign exchange, from customers. And central bank, is stepping up its monitoring mechanism, because that's critical. We know that in the past, even deposit money banks had engaged in round tripping, and so on. And they were doing that one through the BDCs. So all that one will stop. And so once the this directive takes full effect, it has actually taken effect, then desks will be set up in various banks, dedicated, and very strong monitoring will be done. In fact, the governor yesterday read out a free-toll telephone number that any aggrieved customer can quickly call, and then the Consumer Protection Department will take it up immediately. He also gave out the email address. Assuming somebody is trying to make a call, network is bad, you can quickly find a way to email. So mechanisms are being put in place to ensure that the system, the reform, as it were, that is being implemented now, works very well in the interest of the public that sell foreign exchange or buy foreign exchange in small quantities.
Okay, I'm sure that once the implementation takes off fully, we'll begin to see how it works out. I'm just wondering, if the CBN says, look, we're no longer selling Forex to you as BDCs, that doesn't mean the end of BDCs.
Well, not necessarily.
It doesn't mean that their licenses
will also not be issued.
No fresh licenses. No. But the existing licenses have not been revoked either.
Revoked, no.
So they will continue to find them wherever they were, however they can source their Forex. Now, incidentally, this was part of our conversation yesterday. It was part 2 of our conversation on managing inflation and Forex. And one of the issues that came up, actually, to say that, look, commercial banks themselves should source their Forex rather than waiting for the central bank. So why are you now requesting, why is the central bank now saying, okay, commercial banks or money deposit banks, we are going to be giving you more funds? Why are commercial banks not tapping into export proceeds for their access to Forex? In the meantime, everybody's going to sit back now. You will see, I don't know how this is going to work out, because part of the issues that we had in the past had to do with round-tripping from some commercial banks.
Yeah, it's a going engagement, you know, and but the truth also is that the commercial banks also perform certain functions that the CBN needs their services. They open letter of credits. They act on behalf of customers, you know, for foreign exchange transactions. So to that extent, they are actually providing services on behalf of the CBN, you know. And of course, I think it's natural that they should also find a way of sourcing their funds. It makes the difference, the margin, you know, they collect even more impressive when they source outside the CBN. But as the truth of the matter is, I think the CBN should continue to encourage Nigerian banks, non-deposit banks, to source their funds. But again, we have a legacy structural limitations in terms of productivity. Yeah. We are yet to be able to properly address those limitations that had impacted the production, you know, threshold in Nigeria, so much that our companies can be competitive enough globally and be able to raise enough, you know, foreign exchange and bring into the country. We can sit down here and by finger counting, you know, identify our sources of foreign exchange. 86% crude oil. You know,
I think that's the issue.
That's the issue. But if perhaps our industries are stronger and they are exporting, of course the returns would naturally flow into the commercial banks. It's just normal. That would be the first level of engagement.
I think you have really made a point, Kingsley, in that question with respect to commercial banks. And some experts are also arguing that to make the banks become a primary market operators, you know, in the Forex might also distract them from creating deposits, you know, as it were, and of course the normal traditional rule as commercial banks. And again, many people are also thinking of a little confusion that might be observed when commercial banks are now the sole agents, for accessing foreign exchange. Now the central bank has a mechanism, according to Professor Baden, that persons could call central bank and lay complaints if they are mistreated by any commercial bank. For me, there could be some little confusion there. Another aspect I'd like Professor Baden to comment on is the aspect of having repercussion on the value of the naira. This critical decision by the central bank having repercussion on the value of the naira.
Well, thank you very much, Kirian. But let me first of all clarify the position or the question as to why deposit money banks can't source funds outside the CBN. Well, they do that one, and foreign exchange management, foreign exchange sales and receipts has traditionally been part of their functions. There's no other institutional framework for actually dealing in foreign exchange. They are the known institution in the foreign exchange market. They have been, getting some funds from autonomous sources, from exports. Funds obtained from non-oil exports, the exporters deposit in their domiciliary accounts, to which they have free access anytime if they want to import raw materials or equipment and so on. So commercial banks, are already doing that. And as the amount of money, the domiciliary account is very large, in the country, both for individuals and also for firms, who have deposited. So now what has happened is that in the absence of the BDCs, the commercial banks will have more, opportunities to receive funds from autonomous sources. That's outside the commercial bank, outside the, central bank. What was going to the BDCs will go to them. So that one will also boost what they now get outside the central bank, as it were.
As we are saying, these are matters that once the operationalization starts, we will see how it works. The convenience of BDCs is what they operate 24/7 virtually. I mean, you don't have banks operating 24/7 in Nigeria. Any day, anytime, and in any major city in Nigeria, you can always walk in there and then make your forex transaction. But part of what has emerged from all of this, this looks virtually like a continuation of what we discussed yesterday. Part of what has emerged is what the central bank governor, in announcing the resolutions of the MPC meeting yesterday, the gross abuse of forex transactions by embassies and international institutions in the country. I mean, the law of diplomacy and consular law forbid you from engaging in businesses. So how did we get to a situation? Obviously, I don't know whether they are taking advantage of some other piece of legislation of free entry and free exit of your funds. But how did we get to a situation where embassies are transacting forex businesses with BDCs, or even the parallel market, which rates are not any different, instead of using the official, you go to a commercial bank and then you fill you get your documentation sorted out. How did we get to this situation before the decision was taken?
Yeah, I will just clarify this before answering Kirian's questions. I think perhaps the reason is that the embassies, international organizations are taking advantage of the fact that the BDCs are part of the official foreign exchange market. But if the BDCs were operating as expected, obtain foreign exchange and sell at the margin expected, and the embassies, international organizations go there probably will be no issue. But it's because of the misbehavior of the BDCs that they've now transformed from being part of the official market to being part of the parallel market, and then charging and selling foreign exchange at parallel market rates. I think that's where the issue comes up. And now that the central bank has stopped allocating or giving them foreign exchange, the international organizations and their colleagues have no option other than to go to the commercial banks. I'm not sure they will want to take the risk of going to the parallel market where they could lose all their money. They could be issued fake naira, in exchange for their dollars and so on and so forth. That's a major problem in the parallel market. And the secrecy, because it's an illegal market, the transactions are done secretly. I'm not sure all those diplomatic missions, organizations will want to go and hide somewhere, obscure place, and be transacting. So they definitely should now go to the commercial banks and do their business. The question asked by Kirian as to the probable impact on the exchange rate. Well, I will say that the impact will not be different from what would have prevailed if only the parallel market existed. If there were no BDCs, the impact will not be different. What it means actually is that formally, the BDC operators or the BDCs have become part of the parallel market. So they will behave like the parallel market operators are behaving, and their sources of funding are now limited. And to that extent, for the exchange rate may temporarily move up. But after some time, a few months, the rates will come down. It may go up because some desperate, economic agents might still want to go there and buy foreign exchange at whatever cost because of their motives, which may not be pure. If they are facilitating bribes, or illicit financial outflows, then they may want to buy at any cost. And I want to assure Nigerians that we should not worry so much about the activities of the parallel market. The parallel market in Nigeria is a very small segment of the totality of foreign exchange that we have. And so, yes, they will always be there because Nigeria's currency is not a convertible currency. Nigeria does not print dollar or print, pound sterling. Nigeria earns foreign exchange by exporting goods and services, or, when capital flows into the country. Like Nii said, productivity is very low in Nigeria, and non-oil exports are very limited. So the quantum of foreign exchange available to the country is very limited, unlike United States of America or United Kingdom or even the European Union, where their currencies also serve as their domestic currency. Their currencies serve a dual purpose. Their domestic transactions and also international transactions. They have some flexibility there. But Nigeria and other developing countries whose currencies are not convertible, they don't have that one. Unless you sell goods, exports, or you sell services abroad, we cannot earn. So the quantity of currency that we have must be managed. And so in the short term, the exchange rate may rise. But with commercial banks, assuming they behave the way we expect, selling foreign exchange and then whatever was going to BDCs now going to them, then invariably the exchange rate should stabilize. I believe this may have a salutary effect on the value of the naira.
You know, the situation in Nigeria has always been that what goes up doesn't come down. So this aspect of the exchange rates coming down within a few months or thereabouts could be difficult, except perhaps there is any measure
in the parallel markets.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And we shouldn't bother about that one. In the light of the analysis I've done, the parallel market will continue to exist until Nigeria's economy becomes very productive. You know, non-oil exports that are predictable, we have them, and we are any foreign exchange. That one will stabilize the exchange rate, and that in itself may lead to a phasing out of the parallel market. It becomes irrelevant.
Well, Professor Abada, thank you very much. Your optimism, we hope, is realized in the future. Because our national experience has been such that activities on the parallel market are often used for pricing purposes of goods and services. People will tell you, don't you see the value of the naira now? It's already 505. I mean, I read when we were reading the newspaper review this morning, what people say is 505 now, but nobody is talking about the I&E window, which is around about 410 or thereabout. Everybody keeps referring to the parallel market until such a time, of course, we're able to, as you said, you know, get down to the official exchange rate with just a little margin for BDCs or parallel market. That's one. But are we being fair to ourselves, Niyi, when we keep saying that we are not producing enough, we are not exporting enough, and therefore forex inflows are limited? I'm asking this question against the background of what has been said. Our guests say this, and it's also, again, I believe, our lived experience. Are we capturing sufficiently activities that are usually under the radar? It is often said that much of West Africa, if not Central Africa, depends on Nigeria. And we've been hearing lately that some of the food crops that we produce also go out to West Africa and Central and Central Africa. I asked the question the other day, when these things are going out, even the fuel that we import, if you say we have imported 100 million liters of fuel today, all of it is not consumed in Nigeria. Some of it we find its way up to Sudan.
Yeah.
And the question I've asked is, when these goods go out, when these food crops go out, the people who receive, do they pay in sand or in cowrie shares? Don't they, are we, I don't know, are we getting the metrics right so that we know precisely or find a way of encouraging the inflows? Because when these persons, if West Africa, Kira, you understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
If West Africa or Central Africa relies essentially on Nigeria for a number of their critical goods, and they pay for these goods.
Don't they pay in foreign currency?
Yes.
As well?
In which currency do they transact the business?
They first exchange at the borders. They first turn their CFA, mostly, you know, they first turn their exchange their CFA to naira at the border, informal markets that is not captured. You know, the truth of it is that transactions along that line is principally driven by informal sector. So they are not properly registered, they are not properly captured, you know. So to that extent, the CBN cannot, you know, impact any form of influence on them. That's the truth. And
how do we capture them? That's the...
It's still about formalizing that productivity issue, you know. If you have more Nigerian companies being involved in formal exportation of the grains you are talking about, then it goes, whatever is their earning, you know, goes into the CBN pockets, and that is captured. It will be recorded, you know. It will determine the basic indices, you know, to determine what will be the rate of the naira to the dollar, because this money is, the inflow is coming in and you are capturing them live. But the problem now is you have a Musa or a Bayomi somewhere along the borders of Seme, you know, Troilela and all that, you know, doing this transaction. And in fact, for them, there's no difference between the borders of Nigeria and
Niger,
and all that. So it's so much informality. So there's still that need first to also formalize these transactions. And the only way you can do that is to encourage the Nigerian corporate bodies, registered Nigerian bodies, to identify these opportunities, because these are opportunities.
Corporatized them.
Exactly. Yeah. So in that way, we would now be able to exactly capture whatever is the value of transactions that is going on in those areas.
Well, on an optimistic note, from Professor Badan, let's hope that it will not be difficult or cumbersome to access foreign exchange from commercial banks in Nigeria, because now, as Kingsley pointed out, these commercial banks don't operate 24 hours a day. All right. Now, we are rounding off this segment of our conversation, and I would like to appreciate both of you for throwing more light on the decisions made by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Professor Badan, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
It's also a pleasure hosting you again on this platform.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure.
All right. You are watching Good Morning Nigeria, the network service of the NTA. We are taking a short break now, but when we come back, we shall be focusing our attention on the second conversation segment of the program. And let's turn our attention now to the second issue for today.
All right. Now, the World Bank assisted State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program seeks to instill, as it were, a common set of fiscal behavior and standards in the states, as well as encourage widespread adoption of good practices in fiscal and public financial management across the states of the Federation, while respecting their financial autonomy. We have guests with us in the studio now to drill into these issues.
And joining us is the National Coordinator of State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program for Results, Stephen Okon. We thank you for being here this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. We also have the Director General of the Governors Forum, Asishana Okauru. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
And last but not least, we have Man Lee. She is the Program Task Team Leader from the World Bank. Lee, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Let's just begin first by having an understanding of what the State Fiscal Transparency and Accountability Sustainability Program is all about. Stephen Okon, what is this all about in the first instance?
The State's Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, for SIFTAS for short, is a program that evolved from the federal government intervention during the 2015-2016 fiscal crisis in the states, where states were unable to meet some of their maturing and recurring expenses. The federal government had to intervene with a set of large financial assistance. In the first place, what was done was that the federal government had to restructure the debts of 23 states, current debt, short-term loans, debts of 23 states into long-term bonds guaranteed by the federal government. Now, towards 2016, the situation still did not get too well, and the federal government had to support with the budget support facility. The budget support facility was to 35 states, except Lagos, to enable states meet their maturing and recurring expenditure. So the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability, Sustainability Program was a program that evolved from this assistance. And to enable the budget support facility attain the purposes, what was done was that the states agreed to a fiscal sustainability package. And that package was involved 22 points. And in the course of implementation, it was observed that the implementation was uneven, and because of that, it was also noted that the state needed more time to implement the sustainability package, and that led to the federal government asking the World Bank to make available a loan, and that loan, a $750 million US loan, is what was the basis that the federal government used to establish the state fiscal transparency accountability program. So essentially, it's a program that is put in place to enable states improve on their accountability, improve on their transparency, improve on their sustainability when it has to do with debts, and as well also improve on their internally generated revenue. Now, there are two components of this program. We have the component that has to do with the delivery of technical assistance, that is capacity building for key states institutions. And we also have the component that has to do with the delivery or the granting of assistance to, granting of assistance to states, performance grants based on performance. Now, there are also other structures involved. At the national level, we have a national steering committee, and we also have the Minister of Finance coordinating the implementation, while the states also have the implementing agencies. The important thing to note here is that there are agencies that work with the Prime Minister of Finance in delivering this program. In particular, the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation is responsible for the verification of results of programs that are undertaken by states. The Office of the Governors Forum is also responsible for delivering technical assistance. We also have the Debt Management Office that provides technical assistance for debt-related DLIs, what we call disbursement link indicators. We also have the PSIN that is also responsible for delivering technical assistance, that is capacity building, as it relates to some of the DLIs. So generally, the intention of the program is to improve the management of public finances at the subnational levels. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's bring in Yuman Lee here. What are the specific disbursement link indicators states must meet before they receive the grants?
Yes. So in order for states to receive the performance-based grants, they need to do two things. So every year they need to meet what we call the annual eligibility criteria, which is to publish their annual budgets and audited financial statements. Now, this seems very simple, but actually before the program, very few states were doing this. And now, in the first year of the program, we had 24 states meeting this eligibility criteria. Last year, we had 36 states publishing the audited financial statements, so the foundations of fiscal transparency. Now, once these states meet this eligibility criteria, how much they get depends on how many results, which we call disbursement-linked indicators, they achieve. Now, these indicators relate to revenues, to expenditures, to debt management, really all the things that they agree to do through the fiscal sustainability plan. Now, just to bring it to life, just to show that these results, these are very tangible results. We're not just talking about reforms for the sake of reforms. So we have now about 2/3 of states having enacted legislation on procurement, on revenue, on debt, on audit. We have several states starting to clear their domestic expenditure arrears. So this means paying billions of naira of what they owe to contractors, to civil servants, to pensioners. We have states taking out payroll fraud by using biometric and bank verification numbers. So these are real results that have an impact on citizens. And then last year, the states really stepped up. So there were two results they had to achieve. And we had all 36 states, first of all, passing amended 2020 budgets, where they protected social spending and appropriated at least 10% of their budget towards COVID-19 response. And we had also 36 states implementing structured tax compliance relief programs to help individuals and SMEs impacted by COVID-19. So those are the kind of results that states have to achieve in order to get their performance-based grants.
All right. Thank you, Yuman Lee. Let's bring in Mr. Asishana Okaro. Well, let's get further clarification on what this is all about. Because we hear about the bailout funds that were disbursed some years ago, and there are still controversies around that from states. Some will tell you, no, the bailout wasn't a gift from the federal government, that it was part of what the states had earned sometime in the past. And then from time to time, we keep seeing figures or data being published about the level of indebtedness of states. You find Lagos being mentioned as one of the most indebted states. Rivers is also there. So is this about this whole program? Is it about the bailout? Is it about external indebtedness? Is it about internal indebtedness? What is it all about?
Thank you. Thank you. You're right. Bailout wasn't a gift to the states. I must tell you, over time, I mean, the states have faced very challenging fiscal conditions. And like Okon, who's the national director, and of course the designer of this project, Yoman, have explained, it became necessary for the federal government to approach the World Bank, and this program was put in place for the benefit of the states. 750 million involved, 700 of that for technical. It's supposed to come to the federal government as a loan, but and given to the states based on how they perform as grants. I mean, the 50 million part was supposed to serve as technical assistance. So what what the forum basically did was to engage the Nigerian Governors Forum Secretariat, which, as you know, is the technical arm of the forum, to help package technical assistance for the states. We basically leveraged on what we've always done and what we've done for a number of other development partners, and in fact that we do for states directly. I mean, in all the areas they've mentioned, whether it's around e-procurement, revenue generation, audit, or putting laws in place, or ensuring that the agencies, the relevant institutional agencies are working well. It's been the responsibility of the Nigerian Governors Forum Secretariat to put together subject matter experts to help drive this. I mean, so, and like you heard from Yoma, there's been, excuse me, there's been significant improvement over time. And as things stand today, I think all the states, and in fact all our principals, the governors, have taken ownership of this program. And I just see this enhancing the fiscal health of the country. It's true that a number of the states are heavily indebted. The states are, that's probably arguably the biggest challenge of most of the states today. I mean, but we think overall the program is helped in bridging the deficit gap, the trust challenge that states find themselves in an attempt to manage state affairs.
So, sorry, Mr. Okaro, again, for purposes of clarification, the SIFTAS program is intended to get the states as a going concern. In other words, begin to run your operations, and if you get profitable, that's fine. You're able to meet some of your obligations. It is not intended to say, look, we are mopping up your debts. Is it?
No. It's basically, I mean, if you were to look at the physical health of a state, I mean, I think what this program is essentially saying is that there are some institutional mechanisms that must be on ground for things to work effectively. And there are some laws that you must put in place for things to work the way they are supposed to work. And that's exactly how they've pushed this. And they understand that in order to get things like that to work in this country, it's important first you get the chief executives on board, that is the governors, and equally get the network of principal officers below the governors involved. And so that is falling on us to reach out to these officials. I mean, whether you're talking of commissioners, special advisors, or a number of other heads of the different agencies responsible for this, whether it's in the area of managing debts or publishing the accounts, as basic as that. I mean, it's falling on us to ensure that that happens. And the way it's designed, it's like participating in something. You need to meet certain basic requirements, which they call eligibility criteria, and to fit in, like publishing your account. I mean, putting it out there. I mean, and it's been discovered that that was not the case until this program came on board.
All right. You said that this is not a gift to states. These are loans. Do we have any mechanism, monitoring mechanism, put in place by this program to monitor all the states and ensure that whatever grants or loan that they have is being adequately utilized? And in terms of payback, how does this loan, how is it going to be repaid?
Thank you very much. Let me first clarify that the grants to states is not a loan. The federal government obtained this loan for the purpose of sustaining the implementation of the fiscal sustainability plan. Now, states that meet the disbursement criteria or the eligibility criteria are then given grants based on their performance. These grants that are given to states are not loans. They are to encourage them sustain fiscal behavior that is believed that over time, if entrenched, will improve fiscal management of public resources down the line. So the money given to states based on performance, based on attainment of the disbursement link indicators, based on meeting the eligibility criteria are never loans. They are grants to encourage performance.
Okay, in other words, the federal government, of course, approached the World Bank and said, you man, give us $750 million. And she's so wealthy, she says, okay, federal government, we will give you this amount as a loan. Of course, I believe a long-term facility. Yes. So the money comes into the coffers of the federal government. The federal government will say, look, all right, 36 states of the federation, we need you guys to survive and to thrive, to be a going concern, as it were. But you will get so much from us as a grant if you meet the following criteria. That's correct? Fantastic. Now, when you say you meet certain criteria and then you are giving money to you, you man, explain this to us. Are these targeted grants? And then when you say, let's just assume a state is going to get $1 million, for performing well, on the identified criteria. Is that $1 million intended for use for a specific purpose, or it just goes into the state's budget? And then, from what we have seen, unfortunately, state houses of assembly are supine. They have very little control over the executive. So how is the money that comes from the federal government now on the basis of a state satisfying the required criteria, how is the money targeted or how is it required to be spent?
So the money goes towards the budgeted expenditures of the state. So those that are appropriated by the state through their annual budgets. Now, you recall this is a program for results. So the emphasis is really on achieving the results and the performance, rather than focusing on, let's say, financing of specific inputs and processes. I think this is a real shift in how we are working with the states in Nigeria. There's 36 states, we're involved in all of them. And we're moving towards this very much results-based approach, where there are very clear targets, very clear results, and if the state achieves them, they get the grants or the loans. In this case, it's a grant. Now, in terms of oversight of expenditures, well, if you look at the results themselves of the SIFTAS program, they enhance transparency and accountability. Right? They require publication of the budgets, they require publication of the budget implementation reports, the audited financial statements. So the results themselves, which the states have to achieve, themselves increase the transparency and accountability of what the government does with its money, whether it's from the SIFTAS program or whether it's from the fact transfers or whether it's from their own internally generated revenues. So it's really the program results themselves that enhance that accountability that you're talking about. And just to add to the point about debt, one of the results, very key results of the program is states enacting the state-owned fiscal responsibility laws. So before the SIFTAS programs, very few states had any laws that put any constraints on their borrowing. Through the program, we have 2/3 of states having passed state-level fiscal responsibility laws. That means that they set limits on how much they can borrow to fund their budget deficits. So it's the results themselves that supports this debt sustainability, this accountability.
All right, Mr. Caro, are there mechanisms, put in place to ensure sustainability of this program?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that question. You see, at the heart of this program is the need to ensure sustainability. That's for us at the Secretariat and for us the technical arm. Because we start sustainability, it should just not be worth it. I mean, and I must tell you, the decision of the World Bank and the federal government to leverage the Governors Forum Secretariat is clear, very deliberate. This something we've done and we will continue to do. We have capacity at the forum level to make this happen. I mean, we leverage convening power. I mean, now in terms of sustainability and for specifics, it's important that, like you heard from Human, and you have some laws that have now been put in place. They have gone through all the processes and they are there. There are some institutions that have been established right now as a result of this program. The implication of that is that when there's a change in government, whether one party moving to another party, it will be irrelevant. You just have laws and that are now applicable that we expect to run things within the state, whether it's debt management or your capacity to interact with development partners or do business with outfits out here. It's that, and we think that is key. Now, it's been possible too to adopt global standards. For instance, in the preparation of budgets, for instance, it's not been possible to really compare happenings from state A to state B. I mean, but right now, with the use of the National Chart of Accounts, I mean, we've gotten all the 36 states on board. It's now very possible to prepare professional budgets and to compare budgets from state to state. And of course, actually align that with what is happening at the federal level. Again, the TSA, the Treasury Single Account, it's one of the DLIs actually requires that states establish that, and we think that has helped because there's been linkage between BVN and payroll, and that has reduced fraud significantly in the state. I can't see any governor, any new administration coming in to change that. I mean, we think that has helped, and that will continue to help. And then e-procurement is something we've put on the table. It's helped to bridge the gap, the trust gap, because things are now more transparent, and then governors now understand that you stand to make more money within the state. You stand to connect more with your people if you're transparent and accountable. I mean, and this program too, because they've all taken ownership, is helped in achieving that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Caro. Who are the monitors of this program, Stephen Okon? Who are the monitors? Is it you as a national coordinator? Is it the World Bank, or you have external monitors to be sure that indeed what the Secretariat is reporting back is actually the reality, and that we are seeing changes in otherwise financially basket situations? Thank you very much.
The first monitor of this program is the independent verification agent, which is the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. Whatever results are claimed to have been achieved are first of all verified by this independent verifier. And it's not alone in this assignment. He is supported by an independent audit firm, a third-party audit firm, which is a private sector concern. And beyond this, at the state level, we have the state steering committee, which is responsible for monitoring of implementation of this program, ensuring that the action plans are approved and that are followed through. And we also have the civil societies that are engaged to be part of the monitoring of this program. So generally, there is the official or the government channels of monitoring, and there's also the open channel of monitoring, which is being done by the civil society organizations.
All right, Human Lee, what have been the success factors? I know that all the states cannot be a par in terms of successes. In your calculation, how many states do you think are doing well, you know, and those that are not doing very well as you expected?
Yes. Oh, by the way, just in terms of monitoring, you yourself can monitor because most of the results require publication online of key documents. So you can actually go yourself as citizens and do that monitoring. So in terms of how well states have done, so we are very happy, we're very proud that all 36 states are now participating in the program. We say that no state gets left behind. And this is really the result of this very good technical assistance that is being provided to the states by partners such as the Nigeria Governors Forum. So this technical assistance is given to all states regardless of performance. And the idea is that this accommodates the diversity of states in Nigeria, the different starting points in terms of their capacity. So this is really a way to help states, you know, level up really and achieve that performance. In terms of the critical success factors, so I think there's a few. First of all, I think the program has done really well in establishing a mutual accountability framework and trust between the federal government and the states. The states have very clear results, time-bound, specific results that they need to achieve in order to get the grants. And then the federal government is committed to delivering the technical assistance and providing the grants on a timely basis once the states achieve the results. So that mutual accountability is established and going very well. Secondly, as Mr. Stephen Okon has mentioned, as a program for results, the credibility of the verification of the results is key. We don't want a situation where states get the grants for things that they haven't achieved. So that is absolutely key. Thirdly is the technical assistance, which I just mentioned, that this helps all states achieve those results. And I think the relationship, the partnership with the Nigeria Governors Forum has been critical, not just because of the TA, but through leveraging their platform to engage with the states on a continuous basis. So we're engaging with the states from the technical level all the way up to the executive governors. And I think that kind of sense of peer learning has been very important. And then I think lastly, because of the transparency of the program, all the results, by the way, how well each state has done, this is public information. So citizens and CSOs, they can compare state with other states very, very easily. And I think this creates a sort of healthy peer competition amongst the states. So I think those are some of the success factors.
All right, thank you, Yuman. Once again, Ashishana Okaro, how much of this money has been disbursed, and what is the time delimited?
Yeah, the banker is here. She should.
Yeah, so that we know we have an idea over what length of time are we looking at to say that this disbursements, would last.
This is a 3-year program, I think. Yeah, it's for 4 years actually, and it's supposed to lapse 2022.
No, if you don't mind, let you answer that question, and I'll come to you for it. Yeah, that's right. Or Stephen, yes, who has the numbers?
Yes, please. So far, a total of $692 million, equivalent of about 262.3 billion naira, has been disbursed to states based on performance. It's not money that is shared equally. As explained earlier, based on performance on the DLIs, states are being given the grants. In the 2018 APA, 24 states benefited. In 2019, 32 states benefited. Then there are some DLIs that has to do with COVID-19, and almost all the states benefited in respect of that. But in sum total, money disbursed to states out of the $700 million is 692.3 thereabout million dollars.
Okay, thank you. But Mr. Okaro, I'm sure you're familiar with publications from time to time in the Nigerian media, usually the newspapers, as to the groupings of economically viable states in the Federation. You will see sometimes they will say that only a few states are otherwise economically viable. Does the SIFTAS pretend to address that question of economic viability, or it just ensures that they're able to run their finances well, whether they are poor or whether they are rich?
No, but well, from my desk, I believe all the states are viable. I mean, if we were to, they may be challenged, but there are a number of things that could be done to change all that. And I think the SIFTAS fits into that. SIFTAS program itself fits into that. I do not think that, like you heard, this money is coming in as a grant. It's supposed to help the states better structure how they do things at the state level, and I think that has happened, and it's still happening. And I would want to say that a number of the states, if they continue on this path, would likely come up better at the end of this program. And that is why we think that the sustainability portion of it is pretty important. The COVID-19, of course, brought in some challenges in the country. It was not possible to meet face to face. So we found ourselves leveraging technology to help to get some of these technical materials communicated to the various states. In some other cases, we found ourselves organizing hybrid meetings to get these things done. But if you were to go around the states today, I tell you, a number of them are primed for a number of good things moving forward. They have basically imbibed the spirit of what you have here, and beyond that, you have materials now available to the general public. That would keep challenging states and challenging our experts, university community, and a number of people within the country. So for viability, I think we're on track, and I think the states are. Yeah.
So from all indications, all the 36 states of Nigeria are doing pretty well with respect to this program?
Yeah, we can say so. We can say so.
Yeah. What is publicly available, Mr. Stephen Okun, is the emasculation of local governments in Nigeria. Does this program in any way seek to even indirectly address that, so that local governments, as envisaged by the Constitution, form part of the economic agenda of development of the respective states? Because I see that the focus is on governors. Mm-hmm. You have 774 local government areas in the country, and ordinarily they should be the bedrock of economic growth and development.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to think so, because any program that has to do with transparency, openness, and accountability actually speaks to good governance. So in the course of the program, because of the openness nature or the openness demand of this program, whatever is being done that improves governance at the state level also goes to the level of improving governance at the local government level. I think this program, in a way, helps local governments get better in terms of either participation in governance as well as delivery of good governance.
All right. I just want to ask very briefly, sure. Are you satisfied with the implementation of the program so far, or do you have any concerns?
Well, we can always do better. But this program is one of the best performing programs that we're supporting government on. And as a result of the good performance, our board has actually approved additional financing for the program of $750 million in December of last year, partly to support states in response to COVID-19. So we really do hope that in the last 2 years of this program, the states will continue to perform, very well. And I think, all the partners are on board, ready to meet that objective.
Right. What are the specific areas? Sometimes, I'm sure you have the opportunity of explaining that. What is the COVID-19 response component of all this? We had some national embarrassment over COVID-19 palliatives last year, and one of the critical challenges we face arising from COVID-19, of course, has to do with in-country vaccine production. So what is this component about COVID-19? Is it just a blank statement, or there are some specific requirements?
So I'll give you 3 specific results. One, which I've mentioned already, the states having to pass amended 2020 budgets that allocated at least 10% of their budget towards COVID-19 response programs. Secondly, they implemented tax compliance relief programs for individuals and SMEs who were suffering from the shocks of COVID-19 last year. And then thirdly, there was a result where states had to put in place emergency procurement guidelines, which enabled them to procure expeditiously goods and services for COVID-19 response. So there are very specific results that relate to COVID-19 response.
All right. Thank you indeed, Yoma Lee. Thank you for being part of this program. It's from the World Bank. We appreciate your contributions. Also, Aishana Okauru, we also appreciate you for being part of the program. And I also would like to thank the coordinator of the State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, Stephen Okon. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
All right, so that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We do appreciate your tuning in. The program is back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, do take care of yourself. I am Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umaya. Do have a great day.